The Assembly will please come to order. The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Carlton. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Ellison. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblyman Frierson. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Hathan. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Haudegui. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Krasner. Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Martinez. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblyman Matthews. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. Assemblyman C.H. Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblywoman Nguyen. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Orlicker. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Roberts. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Thomas. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Wheeler. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblyman Frierson. Speaker Pro Tem Yeager.
Present. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. May the record reflect that there are 40 members present and that Assemblyman Frierson and Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson are absent excused.
The record shall so reflect there are 40 present, 2 absent excused. There is a quorum. The Assembly will please rise for the prayer by Reverend J.J. Tuttle, Corrected Nas, Carson City.
God of peace, we invite you to preside over this assembly. Even if we have gathered here with different opinions, give us a unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole on behalf of Nevadans rather than as individuals. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room today and work together on a shared mission. Amen.
Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Go to order of business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Friday, February 26, 2021.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and the Speaker and the Chief Clerk be authorized to make the necessary corrections and additions.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Go to order of business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which was referred Assembly Bill 91, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Sandra Haudegui, Chair.
Go to order of business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, March 2nd, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills numbers 97, 116, 125, 126, 151, 166, and 172. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Go to order of business 11, second reading and amendment of bills.
Assembly Bill 24, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and related to mental health, revising provisions relating to a forensic facility to which certain offenders and defendants with a mental illness may be committed and providing other measures properly thereto. People of the State of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 27, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary and relating to child support, revising provisions of the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act governing the issuance of certain orders redirecting child support and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the State of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 112, introduced by Assemblyman Marzola and Yeager, and Act relating to minors, revising provisions relating to the compromise claims of a minor and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 140, introduced by Assemblywoman Nguyen et al., and Act relating to civil actions requiring certain lessors of vehicles to accept service of process under certain circumstances, requiring such lessors to transmit a copy of the service of process to certain lessees and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file. We'll go to Order of Business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Duran.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. On top of it being Women's History Month, I'd like to start by celebrating one very special woman. This person is an educator, trailblazer, and most importantly, a friend to many. I ask that this body join me in wishing our colleague is representing Assembly District 5 a very happy birthday.
Assemblywoman Black.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Mr. Speaker, last night the Golden Knights beat the Minnesota Wild 5-4 in overtime before a crowd of 2,605 people in Las Vegas. Article 4, Section 15 of the Nevada Constitution requires the doors of each house shall be kept open during the session. In addition, Article 1, Section 10 guarantees the people shall have the right to freely assemble together to consult for the common good, to instruct their representatives, and to petition the legislature for redress of grievances. This building is locked to these people, and they deserve better. Local governments are opening, businesses are open. It is time the legislature was open to the public. It is ridiculous that my sons can play football, but they cannot visit me in this building. I can go to a casino in Mesquite, but a constituent from Mesquite cannot visit me in this building. Members of the Assembly, the Senate, and employees of the legislature can go to dinner in restaurants in Carson City, but the employees of those restaurants cannot come to see us in this building. The doors of each house in this building are not being kept open, and we have taken away the right of the people to assemble to instruct us, their representatives. Mr. Speaker, it is hypocritical for us to have this building closed but allow businesses in Nevada to be open. Either it is safe or it is unsafe to allow people into buildings. The legislature should either close all businesses or open our doors. If it is safe to allow people from across the world into our casinos, it is safe to allow people into this building. If it is safe to allow people to go to Golden Knights games, a crowd of 2,605, it is safe to allow people in this building. If it is safe for high school football players to play football, it is safe to allow people into this building. You cannot have it both ways. Mr. Speaker, Order of Business 8, I move we open the legislative building under the same safety procedures as required of Walmart, bars, casinos, grocery stores, and other businesses.
I would second that motion, Mr. Speaker.
Mr.
Mr.
Speaker,
Speaker,
Pro Tem,
per Mason's
1 minute
Manual of
recess,
Legislative
please.
Procedure,
1
Section
minute recess.
245, 241, I appeal the ruling of the Speaker.
The Assembly will come back to order. There has been a request for order of business 8. I'm not recognizing that motion at this time, so we will stay in order of
Mr.
business
Speaker,
15.
per Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, Section 241, I appeal from the ruling of the Speaker.
We'll stay in order of business 15. We'll go next to Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light with the History Month, Women's History Month, and also on a personal note, I would like to say I recently learned of Mary Fisher's death this past month, actually last week. I want to give my condolences and prayers to the Fisher family and loss of their wife, mother, grand, and great-grandmother. Mary was a fantastic woman who can easily be said she lived her life to the fullest and gave even more to everyone around her. Although born in Boise, Idaho, Mary came to Carson City with her husband, Al, in 1962. Together they started a successful business and raised 4 children. She was extremely active with our local Girl Scout troops, receiving the Triumphant Honoree Award. Carson City owes her a great deal of gratitude, as she was the driving force behind combining art, landscaping, and Carson City history to the various points along I-580 corridor in town. Mary Fisher was recognized by the Carson City Chamber of Commerce as being one of the 10 exceptional women who have ever been and will continue to be important in the history of this city. She will be dearly missed by myself, her family, friends, and Carson City as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblyman. We'll go next to Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Order of Business 15.
Order of business 15.
On this day, 160 years ago, Nevada became an officially recognized territory and was incorporated into the United States by Congress. Prior to its establishment, the Nevada Territory was a part of the Western Utah Territory and was known as Washoe, after the native Washoe people that inhabited it. The discovery of silver at the Comstock Lode in 1859 created such a massive impetus for people to migrate out west that Congress decided to separate Nevada from Utah and designate it as its own territory. By the end of 1860, the population of Nevada had grown to almost 7,000 people, a significant and rapid growth from the sparse settlements that had occupied the territory before. People came to the new territory in hopes of success in mining and economic development. The original capital of Nevada before statehood was Genoa, the first official settlement in the Nevada Territory, hence the longest functioning bar in the state of Nevada, to which I've been. It wasn't until a year later that the city we sit in now became the capital, and another 3 years after that until Nevada went from a territory to a state. An interesting fact about the Nevada Territory is that they didn't have an officially established government, but they did have a provisional governor, James Warren Nye. He was absent very frequently, and so the provisional secretary stepped up and often fulfilled Nye's duties. His name was Orion Clemens, older brother of Samuel Clemens, who we all know as Mark Twain. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. I just wanted to take a minute, order of business 15, and thank everyone for wishing me a happy birthday, and for the flowers, and for the treats, and for the calls. And I even had a senator come upstairs to wish me a happy birthday. So just wanted to thank you for all that, because again, we know this is our family away from home, and there's no other place I'd rather be right now than spending it with you all and helping and serving the great state of Nevada. I also want to recognize that as this is, the kickoff for Women's Month, that again, it will never, ever not be the biggest deal ever to be part of the first female majority legislature in United States history. And so whether it's the 80th session or the 81st session, but for, hundreds of years from now, we have to always remember our place and position in history and time. And so to all my fellow female legislators, I'm happy to be here with you as well. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno,
1 minute recess.
1 minute recess. The assembly will come back to order. We are still on order of business 15. Assemblyman Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, as I look around this body, I see a lot of people like myself, but also a lot of younger people in their 30s, 40s, God bless you. And I see that everyone in this building has been either offered or received the vaccination. I think that's great. And we have 444 employees, if my numbers are correct, in this building. A lot of that in that particular age range. And I think the reason that we were offered these life-saving vaccines a little earlier than some of our older, more vulnerable people was so we could open this building. And I hate to see us not open a building and then take away a vaccine from someone who may have needed it. And being in that vulnerable category myself, believe me, I was glad to get it. But there's a lot of other people out there too. So what I ask is we really think about opening this building up, letting the people come in, because whether we're doing it or not, we're giving the impression of legislating in the dark. And that's not an impression we ever want to give to the public out there. We need to be able to open this building as soon as possible, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, and I would hope that we would take a vote on it very, very soon. Thank you, sir.
Assemblyman Ellison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Mr. Chair, I look around this room and I see all my colleagues from north, south, east, and west. Every one of these people have a vote in this floor, and I'm hoping we can do that by the motion from my colleague from 19 that made. I think it's important that this is not a Democrat, a Republican, independent vote. This is a vote of the people. And we need to stand up for the vote of the people, because we're still getting calls from lobbyists and the people that says, hey, we want to come and speak. But the problem we're having trouble with the computers and the sound system. Everybody in this body has said the computers are breaking down, or you can't hear them, or they're staticky, or whatever. But I think it is important that we get the vote on the floor eventually, and everybody talk and vote one way or another. But we need to vote for the people and open this body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Assemblywoman Titus?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I want to circle back to my colleagues from the South statement regarding this important day for the state of Nevada, that it is the 160th birthday that Nevada became a federal territory, as she had already mentioned. I want to focus a little bit more on a person that she did mention also, and that happens to be the Clemens family. The only secretary of the territory Nevada ever had was Orrin Clemens. As was mentioned, the elder brother of Sam Clemens, better known as Mark Twain. Samuel accompanied his brother to Carson City, hoping for employment in civil service and then in mining before finding his talent for writing in Carson City and Virginia City. Mark Twain even covered this legislature. I know he would have been, I'm sure he would have penned some interesting comment after today's session here. And he helped form what is known as the Third House, which was a satire body of journalists who met at the end of session and lampooned the lawmakers. And we still experience that, and we'll see that at the end of this session. Here in Nevada is where he developed his humorous wit and talent and inspiration for his Nevada Western book, Roughing It. I actually own a complete first editions of Mark Twain's books and find him an amazing person. He states in that book, the daily Washoe Zephyr set in, a soaring dust drift about the size of the United States set up edgewise came in, and the capital of Nevada territory disappeared from view. All of you from the South have been here long enough to perhaps experience one of those Washoe Zephyrs that come through Carson City. We welcome you to this town, as Mark Twain was proud to have been here too. We are all proud of our heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I stand here today as a grandmother, mother, wife, daughter, and the first African-American woman to hold a leadership position in the Nevada State Assembly. I want to say what a great honor it is to commence the start of Women's History Month within this chamber. It was just a bit over 100 years ago that women were allowed to vote for the very first time in a national election. And we know today we stand here as the realized dream of the women who came before us, and as the role models for future female leaders to come. Collectively, we have made our mark on history, last session as the first female majority legislature. Now, that majority has expanded to nearly 60% of the legislatures being women. Individually, we have brought our experiences as doctors, teachers, lawyers, and activists to the table and have evolved the way politics works. Together, we have created a unique and incomparable perspective in the policy conversation. And this dynamic is an essential part of what makes Nevada great. Nationally and in Nevada, there are more women serving in office than ever before. But the fight for our equality is far from over. In this House, we have proven by example just how effective it is when women lead. We are trailblazers. We are fighters in our own right, and we may continue to lay the groundwork for women who choose to walk in our footsteps. Today, as we stand on the shoulders of the women who came before us, we must continue to uplift one another so that we may climb even higher. Happy Women's History Month.
Before we conclude this morning, I just want to take a moment of personal privilege to say a couple of things. Number one, the safety of those in this building, whether they be members or whether they be staff, is and will continue to be first and foremost in the decision-making process about if and when this building opens. As elected officials, that's the prudent thing for us to do to make sure that people who are working in this building, some of whom don't have a choice, are safe and secure. I also would like to say that this legislative process perhaps has never been more open to the public than it is now. We have people calling in from all over the state to participate in these meetings. That typically is not an option that's available. Usually you're limited to coming to this building or going to the Grant Sawyer building in Las Vegas or perhaps another remote location such as Elko. But I want to take a moment to recognize our staff who works tirelessly behind the scenes to make these meetings happen, our broadcast and production services, who queues up the phone lines every day for everyday Nevadans and lobbyists to participate in these meetings, and our committee staff, who is doing all kinds of work behind the scenes that many of us don't see and will probably never appreciate. So I don't want to let a moment go by where we don't take an opportunity to show our appreciation for everyone in this building who is working so hard to make this legislative process accessible. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I move that the Assembly stand adjourned until Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at the hour of 5:30 p.m.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Thursday, March 4th, 2021 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We are adjourned.